We now turn to our first speaker on the opposition, Jake Sherman. Jake is an American journalist, founder of PunchBowl News, and a political contributor on NBC and MSNBC. After graduating from Columbia University's School of Journalism, he became a senior writer for Politico and is now the top congressional reporter on Capitol Hill. Jake, the floor is yours.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having a dumb American. I'm here to take all responsibility for the American press, which I'm sure you guys will appreciate. This is going to be short and to the point. As one of the questions indicated before, we live in a society where people can make decisions about what they read and what they don't read. Very simply, the media is one of the most accountable daily, by moment, professions. If corporate America was as accountable as journalism, would be in a better spot. Let me start by taking issue with the question at hand. We are debating this in an institution whose motto is defending free speech since 1815. The freedom of speech in my country, at least, I'm not going to talk about the British press or any specific incident, story, report in the British press. The freedom of speech is essentially absolute and should be subject to few, if any, external limitations. My country illustrates a useful example on why there should be no limits on the freedom of the press. Let's talk about let's define the press for a minute. The journalism landscape has changed significantly over the last few years. Individuals are now their own media brands and could command an audience with just a computer and a Twitter account. You could decide to turn off, turn on, pay attention, not pay attention to whomever you want. Let me take issue also with the idea that there should be some sort of external check or an overlord on anything that the press does. What's next? Let's take this a step further. If the religion that you practice is a nit to the public, should there be a check on that as well? No, that's also a fundamental right, the right to practice your religion. In my country, your country, no government entity should check that. There are existing limitations on what we could do in the media. We can't incite violence. We can't, we can, but we shouldn't, and we could be held to account by the authorities in my country. You can't put at the top of a newspaper every day, go kill a bunch of people. That would be, you'd get into legal trouble for doing that. In my country, not as familiar with the laws in your country. And take recent examples of the almost Darwinian, I would say, accountability that we have in the press. During the 2020 presidential election in my country, BuzzFeed News published an unverified dossier about Donald Trump's behavior by a spy in this country. BuzzFeed News went public. Their stock is basically at zero, a little bit less than $1, and their news operation has folded. Dan Rather, reporter, TV journalist in my country, used unverified information about George W. Bush's military record. Somebody who had been in journalism for 50 years. He was fired. His career ended after 50 years because he was wrong. He lied. He didn't check it out. Yes. I don't know why Twitter still exists. I mean, Twitter is a public forum. You can go outside and say whatever you want. You could also go outside and say whatever you want without a check. That's what Twitter is. You could go outside and talk to your friend about something. That's not the... Yeah.
You have freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. And the problem with the press is that they have access to people in a way that private individuals don't.
But my argument would be that actually, as an individual, you can. You can. The barrier to entry into the media is lower than it's ever been. So if you want to speak to a certain demographic, if you want to represent a certain demographic, you can. You could start a website, you could start a Twitter account, and you can do that. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
I completely agree with you that you can, but that's why you get companies like BuzzFeed, where you get left-wing echo chambers in real political implications. So that's exactly the point that there isn't enough accountability. You can still do the damage before any accountability is done.
But those outlets will fold eventually. Those outlets will dissipate quite quickly. Back to my point. Yeah, I have to take yours. You're in a tuxedo, so I mean, God. And another dumb American, so.
Yeah. The Drudge Report is still out there. BuzzFeed is still out there. Medium's online. You say these publications fold. Fox News, GB News. I can name another dozen more. So they don't fold, these ones. And you make the point about violence. You say, well, you can't actually say, kill people.
But what's the alternative? Is the alternative to have the state, which is more powerful than ever? Is the alternative to have some sort of check, external check on these companies? Accountability only exists if there's somebody who's taking account for the press. What are you going to do? Are you going to put the government in charge of the press? Are you going to put some sort of board in charge of the press? Absolutely not. The freedom of speech should be absolute or nearly absolute. Back to my point, career-ending mistakes, companies shutting down, people losing trust in the press is the absolute height of accountability. There are also laws in your country and in my country to prevent people from lying or libeling or slandering people. And I would argue right now, in the climate that we're in this world right now, the media is not powerful enough. World governments are sliding toward autocracy, and our job is to be the bulwark against that and to explain to people about this slide to autocracy and about the shift away from democracy. Yeah.
So we literally just saw, like, in the UK in the last couple of days, that the head of the biggest news corporation in the UK had paid to be that head to our prime minister.
And how did you find that out?
By the news, and as I said...
There you go.
Sorry. I'll grant it.
In the United States, the public is inundated with billions of dollars in advertising every year, every day, wire to wire. The news is more crucial than ever before to cut through that noise. Freedom, information needs to be free from meddling, and subject to the natural accountability of the public. Thank you.